to 2070 or taking up 2078, and I want to talk about end times worry. All right, so what I see commonly these days is a worry for the end times and how it will affect people, their lives, and their loved ones. So let's just go ahead and start making a list of all the things people are worried about in the end times. All right, so let's do number one, loved ones. Will my loved ones come with? What if my loved ones aren't saved? What if my loved ones are left behind? That's probably the best way to sum it up. Left behind. What if they're in hell? Another thing people often worry about is things in this life. What about my 401k? What about my house, my job, my pets? How will my pets take care of themselves? Now, pets aren't things, but they fall into the same category of people of non-Christians, they fall into the category of not people, essentially. So what about the things in this life? Loved ones. 3, the end times are coming. For some reason, this gives people a lot of worry, which this one is hard to understand personally. You should be happy about this, but I'll dive into it. All right, so I think that end times coming soon? Question mark. Let's just put evil in the world, right? Evil in the world. All right, so we got 4 categories here. Let's dive into each of these and talk a little bit about why you shouldn't worry about the end times. So before we dive into that, how do we know we shouldn't worry about the end times? Well, it's very simple. When we look at the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus talks about worrying. He tells us some steps to not worry. He tells us that worrying does no good. And then he also reasons with our logic. He says, so don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So if you worry about today and you worry about tomorrow, you're overbearing yourself. And that's when anxiety comes. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't personally worry and I don't personally struggle through this, because I do. I often look tired because I worry so much. I often get sick because I worry so much. I get all kinds of problems from worry. I get problems in my marriage from worry. I get problems at work from worry. I have problems with my children because I worry. But I'll tell you what, as soon as I stop worrying, as soon as I follow these steps, as soon as I let go of things in this earth, let go of my worries of tomorrow, and I switch that worry to concern, things go a lot better for myself. In fact, not only do I feel better, but I make better decisions. So I think that when you have the issue of I'm worrying and I can't stop, then there may be some things in your life you need to change. They might not even be habits. They might be ways of life. So for example, let's say you have a large following on a social media platform and you always check the comments to see what people say. You find yourself worrying about an event that occurred and something you said previously against that event, or something you said previously that can be used to put you in a bad light, and you begin to worry. Now, this isn't something that may have happened one particular time. Maybe it happens on various levels, like, oh my gosh, uh, you know, I got fired from work. Everybody on my social media might wonder, like, I'm supposed to be an expert in such and such, and I got fired myself. Maybe that's never happened to you, but we're talking about worriers here, and typically when you're worrying, it's when something happens outside of your control. But back to my point, uh, you have to sometimes change habits. So it's very simple. You need to stop worrying, and you do that in that situation with the social media following example that I gave by stop looking at the comments of your followers, and maybe change the way you make your income. I mean, if it's giving you problems where you're worrying, it might not be the best way to make an income. And if you have no other choice, then you've got to find a way to stop worrying about it. I always hear people say, I can't. But how often do you watch the story of a champion in some sport or a championship team, and they say, we never stopped believing in ourselves, we never stopped trying, we had to be innovative, we had to create new ways. Your life is unique, and you will have to create a way to find a new solution or a new habit to stop yourself from worrying. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the common things that we worry about. Jesus talks about our clothes. How many people worry about getting Jordans? How many people worry about gold chains or gold watches? How about let's see what else he talks about. Food and water and housing. He doesn't talk about housing, I don't think, but food and water and so many things that people worry about your body. How often do people worry about your body? Yes, it's good to exercise. Yes, it's great to be in shape, but you shouldn't worry. If you're finding that something's bothering you outside of a healthy amount, and it seems to be that when you're not focusing on something, you're still thinking about it, and it bothers you, you may be worried, right? There's a huge difference between being excited and worried. And if you're somewhere in between, that's not good either. You just shouldn't be worried. Okay, so I've dove into the basics of what Jesus said about worry. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. I brought this up particularly because we do not know when the end times will occur. I've said this so many times on my channel, guys. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I have a huge following. I think I have a very in the single digit views right now. I hope that changes, but I do in my life see a large amount of people who are worrying about the end times to the point of paranoia, talking about spirits influencing labels and causing particular logos to be of spiritual influence to cause this person to think this way, and frogs living in the center of the earth and alligators in the sewer, and we can go on all day. Is that stuff true or false? It's probably not true. I think a lot of times when people see evil, it's always I think when you see evil, it's always influenced by the powers of the air. But to have the arrogance to think that you know what is causing that evil or why it occurs is absurd. And you need to go read the book of Job. I'm a little passionate about this topic because I struggle with this myself. And I've only gotten past it by being passionate and attacking it and being realistic. When you read the book of Job, Job never really gets an answer as to why he goes through all the suffering that he goes through. I'm assuming most people who are listening are familiar with the book of Job, but if you're not, forgive me, I'll explain it very quickly. There was a man who was very well off, had a large family, a beautiful wife, and everything he could have wanted. And he praised and blessed God and worshiped God and did everything he was supposed to do. He was a righteous man. He lost it all. Everybody got killed. He lost all of his wealth. He lost everything. Then his body got attacked and he got a horrible disease. And he never, ever, ever, ever cursed God. He never, ever, ever turned his back on God. But he did question God. And I'll tell you one thing, God didn't like that. He picked him up by his shirt, and God came in the form of a tornado and lectured Job out. Are you really going to question me when I made the stars and the heavens, and I made the foundations of the earth, and I created animals, and I did all this stuff, and you're going to question me? And Job never knew why all this happened to him. But in the end of the story, Job did get restored, and he was blessed 7 times with what he originally had. Some people may not think of that as a good story. Hey, his family died, I would never get over that. Some people would like that a little bit too much. I think the point of the story is that God can replace your life, can replace loss. And though all loss is always in the book a result of Satan, right? Satan is the one that ultimately wants it to happen and does it. That doesn't mean that God doesn't love you because he lets it happen. God gives free will. We're not slaves. If you're a Christian, you may be a slave to Christ, but that's out of choice. You chose to follow Christ. If you choose not to follow Christ, you're a slave to sin because you're born into it. But at the same time, you can choose either way, so you're not really a slave to anything. And at this point, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I'm getting a little bit too deep into theology, so I'll back it up. So, why did Job go through all of his suffering? I'm not even going to talk about it. You can read the book of Job, because I'm trying to cross a point here. He never knew. And if you've never read the book, you know how he feels. He never knew. And, that's the way it goes sometimes. So, okay. We've talked a little bit about why not to worry. We've talked a little bit about good and evil. Let's talk a little bit about why you should not worry about the end times. All right, loved ones left behind. If you're worried about your loved ones being left behind, I strongly recommend you tell them about the end times. I have the most atheist, agnostic, and worldly people around me. And it's just based off where I grew up and the friends I happened to make before I became a Christian. It has to do with family members and in-laws. And I'll tell you what, it lights a fire in me to let people know, hey, Jesus is real. The end times are coming. Now, do I tell people in anger, or do I tell them in wrath? No. And if people don't want to hear it, I don't tell them. But if anyone is ever interested, if anyone shows any interest, I tell them. I also am not ashamed of the end times, and I stand up for God. And that often leads conversations. I do it in a very calm, scientific manner where, not that I'm using scientific facts, but it's just as a matter of factly. Like, I remain very stoic, and I just say, well, I don't believe that, in evolution. I don't believe that we came from apes. It draws people curiosity, and it leads them into this conversation. So if you don't want people to be left behind, then talk to them about it. Tell them about Christ. Have them be saved. Things in this life. So you all know that we shouldn't worry about things in this life from the scripture we went over previously, However, not to beat a horse, not to get blood from a stone, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that analogy. I think I just like, I'm tired. Not to get blood from a stone, but with regard to things in this life, the reward in heaven is going to be so great, and it's going to be infinite. Infinite. You will forever have it, and it'll never be destroyed. It'll never go away. You really have to consider, do I want the good things now, or do I want them forever in the next life? If you're not wanting them forever in the next life, that's not really an issue of worry. That's more of an issue of a faith problem, where you need to realize that the next life is going to be so grand, is so amazing, that John couldn't even put it in human words. He could describe everything about the future and explain it on this earth in the book of Revelation. He could not describe how amazing heaven looked. We got some details, but he said the city was so beautiful that no human words could describe it. Do you want a piece of that pie? Don't worry about the things of this life. Worry about the things in those life. Now, I want to preface this with, please, don't sell your 401k. Don't sell your house. Don't live on the street and give everything away, right? Read the book of Proverbs. It talks about being wise. It talks about building wealth. It is not evil to build wealth. It is evil to love money. If you would rather keep your money than keep your family, or keep your marriage, that shows where your heart is. So focus on your heart, focus on your why. Ask yourself the tough questions. Okay. End time's coming soon. Guys, just stop it. We don't know, well, sorry, I don't want to be rude, but let's not even go here. We don't know when the end times was. If Jesus didn't know, you're not going to know. Granted, I made a prediction, but that's okay. We can make predictions, but we can't be paranoid. And paranoia comes from fear. When you have something traumatic and something unknown and you combine them together, you get paranoia. It's a very difficult thing to read the book of Revelation as a Christian, because it's so intimidating. It's God's judgment, and it's in detail. And it's very, very intimidating. And sorry, I dropped my phone. But so I would say it's borderline traumatic on your imagination. If you really believe that, it's hard to justify a lot of those judgments. And I can talk about that in one of my videos if someone would like me to. However, you need to keep in mind, you do not know when it's coming. So don't let the severity of Revelation and the seriousness of Revelation and the state of this fallen world cause you to let your lack of knowledge of when the end times is coming to be paranoid, aka fearful. A lot of times when people are worried about the end of the world, it's out of fear. It's not because you read Revelation and you know some secret. I'll tell you why. For the 10th time, because Jesus said nobody knows. I've made a guess, you've made a guess, great, now go preach it. But whatever you do, don't do it in hate, do it in love. Okay. Evil in the world. So some of the predictions about the end times involve evil in the world. The world has always been evil, okay? I mean, I don't even know where to start. Genocide, rape, slavery, pestilence, which is more of a catastrophe, earthquakes, famines, you know, cultures would treat each other horribly. It's a miracle people can be in the same room today from different sides of the earth without killing each other. It's a miracle. 500 years ago, it wouldn't have been like that. So, should we worry about evil in the world? No, right? No. We know because Jesus says there will be wars and rumors of wars. Do not worry. We know this. We know that there's going to be evil. When you see evil on the news, it shouldn't worry you. It should be an opportunity for you. You should say, this is an opportunity for me to pray. This is an opportunity for me to help someone. Right? Don't worry about evil. If evil comes your way, deal with it. You are a Christian and you have the tools to deal with it. You may not see the results of the fruit of your labor. You may not understand why it's happening. But you have to go back to the book of Job. Job never knew. You see, Job had not only catastrophes, but evil occur to him. A lot of people wonder what evil is. But if you're going to if evil is a complicated thing to describe. But essentially there are, right? There is intentional evil, which includes man to man, where it can either be reciprocal or one way. And then there's catastrophe. Yeah, guys, I'm a terrible speller. Catastrophe, where it's just the earth always affecting man, or vice versa. And it can be creatures too. Right? When a bear kills a hiker, you don't say that's evil, right? You don't think of it like that. You think of it as a catastrophe. And when a man murders another man for his wallet, you think of that as an intentional evil. So this is more of, well, it's all evil, right? As a Christian, this is all evil because this is due to the fall, and this is due to the fall, where both man and earth got corrupted. So here is man, and here is earth. They both got corrupted. We can go into creatures, and the Bible talks about creatures a lot and what happened with them. But for now, let's understand that evil occurs because of the fall. There will be evil, and the level of evil will be no indicator of the end times because we don't know. We know in general when the end times will occur, but we just don't know the day or the hour. Jesus didn't say that we can't figure out maybe like the year or the decade, but we just can't know the day. We are certainly in the end times. I mean, if you go to Israel, they're trying to, they're trying to make peace with Palestine. I'm not going to comment on whether it's a good effort or a bad effort, but peace is trying to be made in that area. The temple has the potential to be rebuilt there. I mean, the Jewish people have control of that country again, of Israel again. All kinds of things are falling in place. So, let's sum this up. Loved ones. Don't worry about loved ones because you can help make a difference. You can pray to the Holy Spirit and you can witness to them. Things in this life. You in general shouldn't be worrying about things in this life anyways. But if it's somehow tied to the end times, then I would start at the root and stop worrying about things at this life. And then as a side effect, you will also not worry about things in this life with regard to the end times. When is the end times occurring? Is it coming soon? The same way the 3 wise men knew that Jesus was going to be born is great. It's a significant time in the Bible. But you shouldn't worry about this. We have full confidence when we go to the throne. And even if the end times are coming soon, that's a good thing. You're going to go to heaven and you're going to be constantly happy. And it's going to be the most amazing experience you've ever felt, and you will never feel evil or sin again. Evil in the world. You can't use this to predict the end time because the world is always evil and it's always getting more and more evil. And even though it is uncanny how much these days line up with what the Bible says it will be like, we don't know the day or the hour. We might be able to predict an estimate within a year or a decade or a century, but we just don't know the day and hour. Continue about your lives normally. Love your wives, love your children, love your families, and love your neighbors. Thanks everybody for listening. Please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, anything that you don't like about my videos or that you want me to improve on, anything that you do like, please let me know. I appreciate your time. God bless, and I will see everybody later.